Hey, this is Russ from Good Riddance. You are listening to The New Scene.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The New Scene. I am your host, Keith, and we're back with a brand new episode and a very special guest host, Casey of Iodine Recordings himself.
Hey, Keith. Good to be back on the show again.
It's great to have you here, and it's great to be doing the show with somebody again because I haven't done that in a minute.
Yeah, and it's good to catch up every once in a while.
Well, folks, we've got a special one today. Today's guest is Travis Opal of Hey Thanks. They've got a new album coming out on Iodine Recordings called Start Living. We spoke to Travis. We covered it all. Travis's history, the band's history. There's some really interesting and funny stories in this one as well. I'm not going to spoil it, so that's coming up momentarily. All right, folks, so here it comes. You know what's coming. I need your support. We need your support. Support the new scene. You have to. Number one, we need Apple Podcast and Spotify reviews. Open up your Apple Podcasts app, give us a 5-star review, and if you write a nice review on top of that, I'll read it on the show. Spotify reviews, we need those too. Keep them coming in. I really appreciate everyone's support. I need to get over 100, and I need your help to get there. Also, a reminder, we have a shirt available for sale. Your purchase of this shirt can help directly fund the show. Head over to Death Wish Inc., search The New Scene. The shirt will pop right up. It's there. It's available. It looks great. People are wearing them. We love it. We need it. Keep them coming. And there's some exciting New Scene news I'm going to drop on you right now. Number one, we have a new YouTube Clips channel. It's going to be highlights from some of our favorite episodes. Check it out. It's linked in our main YouTube page. It's called The New Scene Clips. Easy, simple. And we have a TikTok account now. Yes, we have entered the 22nd, what is this, the 21st or the 22nd century, Casey?
I don't even know. I'll get it wrong and everyone's going to make fun of me.
We've entered the modern age. We have a TikTok. I'm posting clips from my Twitch stream there now. There will also be clips from our show. Follow it, New Scene Pod. We are out there. And I'm back on Twitch. I've been streaming regularly, playing Warzone. Drop on in, chat, hang out. We can talk about the show. We can talk about games. We can talk about whatever. And there you go. There's a lot of exciting things happening at the New Scene, Casey. I mean, aren't you excited?
Yeah, I think this show has really kind of taken off since, the partnership started. And we've had some incredible guests recently. And honestly, some of my heroes from my youth, like especially Tim Barry, who that interview was so cool to hear just how genuine and sincere that guy is. After hearing stories about that for so long, really excited to have him on the show. But also, you and I know who's coming, and that's probably the most exciting thing. I mean, I think the next 2 months is just all-star Grand Slam interviews, and I think people are going to be really excited to see what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, folks, so strap in. The excitement never stops here at the New Scene. Now, Casey, since the man himself is here right now, deliver to the people the Iodine Recordings updates. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on at the label, as always. Lay it on us.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we dropped this past week was the signing of Stretch Armstrong to the Iodine roster. And it's a really cool partnership, a band with 30-year history and just a really dedicated, amazing fan base. Excited to have them, as part of the label, just some of the nicest, most genuine guys. And I can't say exactly what we have coming from them, but I think that fans of the band will be pretty excited. Other than that, we're gearing up for a bunch of summer releases. We just dropped the Her Head's on Fire pre-order, which is up now. And that's Joe from Garrison and members of Saves the Day, The Bomb, Small Brown Bike, really good kind of post-hardcore rock and roll type stuff. And, we've got a bunch of bands getting ready for tours. We've got festivals coming up this fall. I mean, really, I feel like Iodine right now is almost feels bigger than it was 20 years ago, when the label was at its height, just with the amount of stuff we have going on and the amount of releases we have planned.
Yeah, I was really happy to see that Stretch Armstrong is now with the label.
Yeah, and it goes back to the label's philosophy, which is, we look for great music, but we also, and probably more so, look for good people. And we've really fostered a kind of teamwork mentality, and all of our artists get along and talk together and work together. And to me, it's creating, kind of a community around the label. It's not just about putting records out. It's about, kind of curating, good music from people who really deserve it.
Absolutely. And there's a lot more exciting stuff coming.
We'll keep it very vague, but we've got some really big announcements coming later this summer.
And in more music news, sadly, Gabe Serbian of The Locust has passed away. This was just announced. He joined the band playing guitar in 1998 and then switched to drums in 2001. And I remember discovering The Locust around 1999, and I dug them because it was just this really technical, crazy music, which I was really into at the time. So sad to hear about his passing. Our condolences to The Locust and all of the friends and family of Gabe Serbian.
Yeah, it's really sad. And I know, both Gabe and, the other members of The Locust have just been so influential on kind of the entirety of our scene. The Locusts were really game changers in music. I think I first heard them in like 96 when they did that split with Jenny Piccolo. And, what they were doing at that time was so different and groundbreaking. And it really changed the trajectory of, this kind of post-hardcore or chaotic hardcore music from then until now. And I think that that band just were visionaries and just trying to really push the envelope of, what they could do musically, and their technical precision was just kind of unmatched, in that time period.
Okay, so we're out of time for this segment. Check back in with us in segment 3 to hear how we are doing. But right now, we are going to speak to Travis Opal of Hey Thanks. Enjoy. All right, folks, I'm here now with Travis Opal. Travis, welcome to the show.
Hi.
It's wonderful to have you here, Travis. I discovered your band this year because you are, of course, part of the Iodine Recordings family now. I love what I hear. I can't wait to hear more. And, we're going to get to all that stuff. We're going to get there. But first, I have to ask you, Travis, how are you doing today?
Today I'm doing pretty good. I worked this morning. It's also my mother's birthday. So shout out to Sherry Opal. Happy birthday, Big 59. She's kicking it.
Nice. Happy birthday, Sherry.
Yes. She's I guess we all consider her the band mom. So, shouts to Sherry.
That's nice. That's nice. What do you do for your job?
I literally work at Chipotle right now.
Really?
Yeah, I work out. It's close to New Orleans, but it's kind of technically this little offset city called Harahan. It's like probably 15 minutes out of the city. But I'm moving to New Orleans with our drummer Trevor this summer. So right now I'm actually commuting to Harahan like an hour from where my job's at. So
oh wow.
Yeah.
Have you lived in the city of New Orleans before?
I did one time, but it was like literally for just a summer, and then I had moved back because of I don't remember if it was because of financial circumstances or relationship circumstances, but yeah, I ended up moving back to a little town like an hour away from New Orleans, and pretty much posted up there since the pandemic, but I'm trying to get back out.
Yeah, I used to live in Pennsylvania. I moved into Philly for a year, and then I was going to move back with my parents, and it only lasted about a week because we drove each other nuts. But I'm glad that happened because it pushed me back out to living on my own, which I think was the best thing.
Yeah. Luckily for me, I feel like I've never had an issue with like me and my mom, because she, like, if anything, I feel like she's always been a big advocate for like music and stuff like that. So anytime I've moved back in or done whatever, like it was, it's always been really chill, and she's been real supportive of, whatever we try doing. So
And that's going to be exciting. I mean, you're going to be in New Orleans with your bandmate, living, doing stuff. That's got to be fun, right?
Oh yeah, we're trying to find some sort of nice rent house once like all the college kids move out for summer break, because we kind of want to just set up like a little studio space and start trying to get local artists in to record and kind of start, I guess, another community, because I feel like New Orleans, while there are small variables and groups that like have their niches, I feel like there's not a huge alternative music community in New Orleans, you know?
Yeah, that was going to be my question because I've heard a lot about New Orleans and the music scene, but I wonder, is there any hardcore or punk or alt scene down there? I guess it does. It sounds like not so much based on what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's a group that we're a part of. It's a lot of bands from a couple bands from New Orleans and a couple bands from the Baton Rouge area, which is like an hour away. And we kind of call it like mope wave, which is this term. I'm not sure who made it up, but it's just kind of a terminology for like all the collective Louisiana bands that we have that we're trying to like, make a community out of. And but yeah, as far as like hardcore or like punk scenes, I feel like there was many times in the southeast region of Louisiana where like there would be bands that would form and get together, but I don't think anything ever really solidified to be like a long-term thing. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And I guess it's more there. I know there was a lot of sludge type stuff going on down there. You have Down and Down. That's the only band I can think of.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I'm not too familiar with that community either. I mean, I know we have like I Hate God and
Yeah.
there's a band from a city in Lafayette that actually is signed to Metal Blade called Capra, which they're really cool. They're playing Furnace Fest, I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a cool hardcore band. Well, hardcore. They're like a mixture of things, but yeah, there's just I feel like there's like bands that sometimes break the mold of the scene, but at least from my personal view, I feel like it never contributes to like I guess what they had in like New York and Boston, where like bands kind of like rode and became this huge wave. If
Yeah.
Whatever happened during like the 90s and early 2000s, it never been a thing down here.
Maybe Hey Thanks will be the first band to kick off some major things in New Orleans. What about that?
I hope so. I think if anything, maybe it'll rather go like everybody's like, oh, let's support Hey Thanks and like all ride this big wave together, or they'll all have like one common enemy and they'll all like want to attack us, and like, which would be cool. Be cool too, like to have a like this almost this little war between like us and like everybody in Louisiana. It might be a cool script.
I'm into it. What was that movement that you said you guys are starting? Mope Wave?
Yeah, it's called Mope Wave. There's a couple.
I love that.
There's a couple of local bands I'll shout out, like Wonder Kid, Baby in the 90s, the Nocturnal Broadcast. There's a cool band, Ria Rosa, and they're all different styles, but we, I guess, collectively just call it Mope Wave because it's, I guess, a unified way to bring everybody together.
I like that. I'm imagining music that is upbeat and can often even be poppy like yours, but somewhat melancholy as well. Does that fit the bill?
Very much so. I would say like with Baby in the 90s and Nocturnal Broadcast. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard. Did you ever hear of a band called Acides Burns?
Wait, yes.
Yeah, so they're actually from, I'm pretty sure, like somewhere on the North Shore of Louisiana, if I'm remembering this correctly. And I feel like a lot of bands down here have some sort of inspiration from them because they kind of took off from Louisiana back in the gap too. And I guess, yeah, it's like melancholy, a little sad. Still has its like core like pop structure elements, but I'd say we're probably still like poppier than most of the bands in Mope Wave, if that makes any sense, I guess.
It does. Well, Travis, let's get to know you a little bit. You grew up outside of New Orleans, yes?
Yeah, I was born in Texas, moved to California when I was like a little baby. And then a bunch of family things happened, and me and my mom ended up living in a little city called Houma, which is like an hour outside of New Orleans.
What's it like there? I'm envisioning some weeping willow trees blowing in the wind and some swampland around. What's it look like? How is it?
Honestly, that's like a beautiful way to describe it, because
Oh, I love it.
if you just had those elements, it would be like really perfect. And then you have to like deal with the smell, which negates like the beauty and all the cool essence that the swamp and moss trees and all that has. Cause then you have to like smell how like putrid the swamp smells. but it's got its own charm, it's Houma is, at least when I was growing up in like my middle school, high school era, I feel like there was definitely like a bit of a local scene. We even made this like, well, not we, but like a friend of mine, Brenner, who actually plays in, I'll call them hardcore. Like they're in a band called Brat, that's picking up some pretty good steam right now. He used to run this festival called Taco Fest, and we used to get like all the local bands from like the NOLA Houma area, and we would set up this like stage tent event thing outside of like this random Taco Bell in Houma because the general manager just didn't care or was cool with everybody doing it, I guess. So,
oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, it was fun.
And how was it growing up for you? It sounds like it's just you and your mom in Houma. Was it difficult? Was it easy? Did you get along with other kids?
I would say that my mom definitely wasn't in an easy position because a lot of my mom's family is actually from like the California area. So when we moved out here, she was kind of on her own, like as far as trying to keep everything together. So I'd imagine that wouldn't be the easiest thing. I mean, we never grew up with like, a lot of money or anything. Like we live in a trailer and stuff. So it's like, we just made the best of what we could. But I feel like kid wise, I was an only child. So for me, I was probably like that really annoying, like weird kid that like was just trying to be in everyone's shit and just like know something just because I guess when I was home, I must have been like so bored. So, yeah.
What was your thing growing up? Were you into music? Were you into other stuff?
All right. I have like, there's like three small areas of what I was into, like from like at least my best memory, which is childhood, super into dinosaurs and Hot Wheels, as I feel like most kids were. I don't even remember what any car is called now, but I bet you I was a lot smarter at it when I was like 5. And then that transitioned into, I was really into wrestling for a minute. I remember I remember like me and this kid, I don't remember his name, but like we were so into like trying to intimidate or mock like wrestlers. Like we would like just like stuff ourselves with pillows and like attack each other and stuff. It was a little, honestly, a little shocking looking back at it. I was like, what's wrong with me? But eventually I think it was like 4th grade. And I remember early on, I was listening to music my mom would listen to, and she was really into like Depeche Mode, David Bowie, Tears for Fears, like all those like 80s pop bands, The Cure, the Smiths, whoever. And I remember like, even though I liked some of it, as I was getting into like later, like elementary, I started kind of rejecting it just for the sole premise that it was my parent listening to it. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to listen to that kind of music. But, and I went through this weird phase where I was really into early 2000s, like ringtone rap, like Nelly and like 50 Cent and Mike Jones. And I really don't know I even like had this jacket, I guess I made my mom buy me, which was like, it had like a speaker in the hood, but I literally could never use it because they didn't let you carry like iPhone or like whatever they were called, little what are those little things you could download music on?
Not an iPod, but before that?
Yeah. I can't even remember the name right now. I had it you could literally only just store like audio in it, but back when like LimeWire was in its heyday. But I had like a jacket for that and never used it. I just I remember one time I even like lied to this kid and I was just like, yeah, I'm listening to music right now. And like they were like, "Oh, that's cool," and I just had nothing in my speaker, and I was.
So you're telling me the jacket had a hood that had a speaker in it?
Yeah, and it had a little wire that like ran through the arm sleeve where you could connect that little music download thing. I don't remember the name, but yeah.
That sounds amazing. We have to find that jacket, or we need to like get it back into production.
I know. That'd be sick. It'd give me, although like I always was wondering as I got older, like how would that fare in like a really bad storm? Like if the wiring would, stay safe in the little hood or whatever. Let's call it. Let's make Casey make some Iodine radio jackets.
I think he would be into that. They would have to sell like hotcakes. They would have to.
Oh yeah. We're gonna bring that trend. We're gonna bring that trend back. All you sixth graders listening out there, remember, jacket hoodies with speakers in them are coming back.
So you're listening to a good mix of music. It sounds like Depeche Mode, David Bowie, early 2000s rap. What did you settle on? What was your realization moment with music?
So I remember I was in sixth grade. I was about to like, I'm not sure how like the grade systems are set up in certain states, but for whatever reason down here, elementary is like kindergarten to sixth grade, and then middle school or junior high is like 7th to 9th, and then high school was just 10th to 12th.
Yeah, they do that up here too for public schools.
I remember being at the end of sixth grade. My friend Justin had got a guitar from his dad, and he was like already really good at playing. And I remember him showing me like 3 chords on a guitar, and I was blown away because even though like I couldn't barely hold the chord together, and like I was just every time I'd strum it, it just sounded like fucking ass. Like for whatever reason, I was like obsessed with it, and I just wanted to kind of dive in and play it. So after that, I remember the first bands I started getting into. It was like a weird mix. It was like I was getting into like early Seosin and Circa Survive and all that stuff. But then I was also like on the opposite end. I was like getting really into like deathcore, like Job for a Cowboy and like bands like the Crimson Armada and those kind of like 2010s bands or whatever. So that was my range of music pretty much going through my middle school years. And I remember what finally did it in for me, and this is a really funny story, but like it was in 8th grade, and I got invited to join this like church youth, I guess, social class or some crap that was like they would do it every Thursday. And the teacher who was running it was like, "Okay, kids, we're gonna have our first Christian rock show." And everybody was like, "Oh, that's sick," because we were like in 7th or 8th grade, and we're like, they're gonna have a band play at the school. Like, awesome. Well, I guess they didn't like do their research, but they hired this band that was a Christian band. They were called like I Am Terrified. I'm not sure if you had heard of them, but they were a band from Alabama. I think they were signed to Goatee Records or whatever down here. And this was like a like heavy like spastic under oath metalcore kind of style Christian metal or whatever. So, and I didn't know what to expect either. So when the show started after school, I remember like the teacher and the principals were all sitting there, and the band gets on this trailer that the school like made for them to play on. And I knew a couple people in the school like must have like heard them through like MySpace or something, because the second the first feedback of the guitar happened, I was like, what the hell is about to happen? And they just started like going fucking crazy. And all these middle school kids just started like moshing and hitting the fuck out of each other. And I remember the principals and everybody just started freaking out, and they were like, what is happening? And like, they started tackling kids to the ground, and like, it was like a full on like war zone. And meanwhile, this band's like semi trying to like talk about the Lord and like be like, come on kids. Like, so I literally that moment on, I was like, damn, that was the coolest shit ever. Like, I want to be in a band now.
Wow, that is great. Yeah, I mean, the first time I truly witnessed that craziness too, I was hooked. That was it. And when I saw that my friends were in bands doing the same thing, I was like, wait, like we can do this? it's possible. I need to do this.
Oh yeah. It 100%. I don't know. Like it was the first time I felt like the energy that I guess the only child in me like wanted to like experience. And I felt like there was so much time of always just being alone and like being with my own thoughts that when I saw that, I was like, damn, this is the first time I feel like I can be in something that is going to completely like take away like all the weird like thoughts that go through my brain on the regular, you know?
Oh, I know. I'm like still there right now at 40 years old.
I don't think it ever changes. I think we just learn how to handle those like demons better, you know?
Yeah, I've learned how to manifest those bad voices or bad thoughts or whatever bad things going on and just channel them through creative pursuits. And I've done all of them over the last few years. Do you find the same thing for yourself?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure we'll get farther along the story of my life later, but yeah, those trials and tribulations definitely come in like various ways and forms throughout like various parts of like my life, and I'm learning the more and more I get older that it's being aware of those thoughts and things that's like the most beneficial thing to have versus questioning why they're happening, I guess.
Yeah. Talk about some of that. Lay it out for us, Travis.
So just for a little backstory, I was never like I guess a drug addict to the point where I was like hospitalized or whatever, but there was a lot of moments growing up as a teenager where on one end like I was trying to like I guess save face and like be on this like youth ministry team as a teenager and like make good impressions on people, but then like on the other side on the same time I was literally like doing opiates every day, like getting into Xanbars. Eventually that turned into like really wanting to get on uppers because Xanbars were like pulling me too far down. And I honestly feel like I spiraled more in my decade of being a teenager than I have at all in like my 20s. And so I feel like what's helped me like get past that is realizing that like like when I meditate or try to like sit there and think about things, trying to avoid those thoughts is a much worse thing to do than to just come to terms and like be aware of like I guess that the issues or the addictions that like you want to have.
No, you're speaking my language here because I struggled with the same thing basically from the age 18 to 35, in various degrees. So there was a very long process of getting to where I am today. But for you, Travis, so it was mostly during your teenage years that this was going on?
Yeah, I was gonna say like I remember it started. This sounds so like I'm like advocating those like anti-weed commercials or something, but I'm not. But it started off like I was 12 or 13, and I was wanting to party and drink because like I was in this thing where because I was getting into music and I was trying to like sing and stuff. I was always around people that were like a little bit older than me. So like when I was 13, I'd be hanging out or at least trying to hang out with like 17 or 18 year olds or people that were like already like hitting their senior year and stuff. So like I just remember starting off like drinking alcohol and smoking weed, and eventually I went down that rabbit hole with opiates and then went into like doing any forms of uppers I could find. And I mean I haven't completely like gone full sober, but I think my last stop on like the train of like the drug spree was I was 18, and I was starting to get so like burnt out on just doing uppers and downers and like whatever I could find that I started doing like psychedelics a lot. And for a minute that actually kind of helped, but then the same thing as like smoking weed, like even if something's not a physical addiction, like it can still become this like mental problem for you. And like I started getting really twacked out like doing acid every weekend until my tolerance would like go away. And so it really, yeah, it really wasn't until I was 20. And this is the part where most people are like, I got saved or I did something that like miraculously like changed my life. For me, it was actually the fact that I got offered like a full-time job to work at like Kellogg's to be like a sales rep. And I remember in my head, like, I was like, damn, I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get something lucky like this again, but they needed me to take a piss test and stuff. So that really small moment kind of like made me try to cold turkey. And for the first 2 years, I definitely went insane, like trying to fight those urges and work at Kellogg's. But, I think that was the turning point for me. Do I still do stuff every so often? Yeah, sure. We all have our vices, but I'm definitely not what I could have been.
How old were you when you got that job at Kellogg's?
I think I was like 19, and it was weird because it was me. I was working at Kellogg's part-time, just being like a stalker. And I remember my friend's mom, Deborah, worked for the company like in her own territory. And she told me that there was a sales rep position opening up and that I should apply. And, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like, I don't know anything about pie graphs or like whatever the fuck they were trying to talk about. But I was like, okay, let's do it. So I applied, and I actually didn't get it at first. There was this lady that was like 50 years old and was super qualified and, had a background in sales. And apparently a week later, I got a call from like the head of our department, and he was like, yeah, so she failed her background check. And I was like, oh, and he was like, so do you still like want to do this? And I was like, sure. So I took that and ran with it for like 3 years. Just pretty much pretending I knew what was going on and trying to make what money I could.
The job was enough to get you to stop this cycle of drug taking.
I guess it wasn't just the job solely, but I think it was that at the time I took the job. I remember moving out into this like rent house with, some friends of mine. And I just like, I guess I like towered myself with a bunch of like financial responsibilities that I never tried doing before because I was too busy just trying to like, I guess quote unquote have fun. But I think it was a mixture of that. And then ironically enough, Kellogg's was a time where I was kind of almost giving up on the idea of music. I had a different band, and we're all, I'm still friendly and we all cool with each other. But at the time, we were just all doing drugs. And anytime we'd play shows, we'd pretty much, just take the money at the gig and split it and just, buy drinks or do whatever. I just started feeling like there was nothing really growing out of it. So when I got that full-time job, I really started like second guessing myself and thinking maybe I shouldn't be in the music industry,
You're in this other band, you're getting this job, you think you're not going to be doing music anymore. What was the turning point? How did you get involved again?
We all got laid off. Literally, like, this is, I guess, I'll give as best of a backstory to the beginning of the Hey Thanks origins as I can. But I was working at Kellogg's, and my other band was playing a show at a bar in Homa. And Hey Thanks had actually started already as a band in that same year. I think it was around like 2016 or something. And they actually, one of the old guitarists had DM'd me asking if my band wanted to play a show with them at this bar in Homa. And I remember I was like, I was still kind of, playing around drugs every so often, dabbling. But we got to this bar, and like, I remember like, Hey Thanks brought this like huge crowd to this bar. Like, it was packed out. And I was like looking at my bandmates, and I was like, damn, I was like, who are these people? And and I remember the first impression that they had of me was the guy who tripped over his mic cable and started spazzing out on the ground while he was singing. Cause that's like, that was how I was in my old band. I was just really like, I guess fucking crazy. And so then comes 6 months later after that show, my job tells me that they're laying off our entire department. Like they're completely getting rid of like all our trucks, all the like. I guess the way it works is Kellogg's used to have a department that was like we had our own warehouses, and so any products that Kellogg's owned would go to our warehouse, and our trucks would deliver it to like Rouse's or Walmart or whatever. And at I guess the new president or whoever was with the company was like, yeah, I think it'd be a lot more cost efficient if we just got rid of our warehouses and our truck drivers and just sent it directly to Walmart's warehouse. And then everybody was like, oh, so like, what does that mean? And he was like, well, you all have 6 months to figure out a new job because you're all getting laid off. And I was like, oh shit. And that was at the time I was still in that rent house, and I was only like 20 or 21, I think. So I kind of started like getting a little panicky. And then in the same week, one of the band members that used to be in Hey Thanks messaged me and was like, hey, are you looking to like play music with other bands? And in my head, I was like, what do you mean? And then they started explaining to me that they got a record deal offer from Pure Noise Records. And so in my head, I was like, oh shit. I was like 100%. I was like, yeah. And then I was like, what happened to the old singer? And they were like, yeah, the label pretty much said that on an email that if we wanted to work with them, they were asking if we'd reconsider certain members. And I was like, damn. And I was like, what did the singer say? And they were like, he seems like really cool with it. Like he like almost like he wants to go or something. So I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. So now I'm back on my hype train. I'm losing my job, but like I'm in this band that's like, they just played I think the year that I wasn't with the band, they had won like the Warped Tour competition. So they played like the New Orleans Warped Tour. They had just got a gig where they were opening for like Metro Station, which is funny that I saw Trey Cyrus because he's very tall, way taller than I imagined him being. But so I said yeah because I was really hyped. And then to summarize, like they found out that the email was fake. Like somebody created a fake email claiming they were Jake from Pure Noise, and I think somebody in the band had actually found one of the emails for Pure Noise and asked if this was like legitimate. And Pure Noise Records literally was like, no, like this isn't us at all. So the band was like super discouraged. They even like were coming at me because, none of them really knew me. And they were like, look, if you don't want to be in this band anymore, I totally understand. And they were like, I would not want to do this shit if like that I just threw everything to like, I guess get told something that wasn't true.
Think about how crazy that is. Someone took the time to email the band, have them get rid of a singer, possibly other members, and then you join the band and it's all fake. Like, how did they figure out who did that? Was there any explanation? I mean, what was going on?
It's still a fucking mystery to this day. The only thing that we know is that there was one other artist in Lafayette that also got an email from the same email claiming about some deal with Pure Noise. And like, I think we tried getting to the bottom of it to figure out who was behind it, but we never found an answer. And like, it just kind of faded away over time, but it was weird. And then like, I think there was one moment where we were like, man, did the old singer do this maybe? Or like, did he like send a fake email himself to like kick himself out of the band or something? Cause like,
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Like someone orchestrated this for reasons.
Yeah. So, but then I guess the thing that didn't make sense is that I was like, if it was a singer, I was like, why did another band get an email with the same thing too? So it was just a lot of detective stuff that needs to be done. If there's anybody in the FBI listening right now, you have a job. So start.
Travis, I have an idea. A podcast spinoff, The Pure Noise Email Mystery, hosted by us. And we get to the bottom of it. What do you think?
I'm totally down.
All right, we're going to talk after the show for sure.
Okay. Okay. I think we still have those emails maybe stored somewhere in like the archives of the Hey Thanks email. So we'll see.
There you go. That's episode 1. So you stay with the band, obviously, right?
Yeah. I said, fuck y'all. I just lost my job. I have nowhere else to go either.
When did you join the band? How long ago was this? What year was this?
So the band started like early 2016, and I joined. I think they asked me to join in January of 2017. So it was literally like
Okay.
a year after they had formed. And if you do some deep diving, if you look up New Noise Magazine or go on YouTube, there is one song by Hey Thanks that still has the old singer. It's a whole music video, but it's on a different music video producer's page, so we can't actually like take it down. But yeah, I joined in 2017 and did my first little 3-show run with them in like March of 2017, I think.
And how was it acclimating into the band? Was it difficult at all? Did you have enough experience that it was pretty seamless? How was it?
I think as far as experience, I had been playing in bands. Like I said, after that 8th grade incident, I actually joined my first band like in 9th grade. And from that moment on, like I was in various little bands here and there. So I definitely was experienced being a frontman, but the only thing that I wasn't experienced with was, I guess, being in a band where people like actually wanted to try and take shit serious, and you know, and being in a band where like I had to, I guess, give musical input because up until this band, or like my solo stuff that I always write, every other band I was in, I was a frontman, but like I never really like gave my opinion about how the bands would write or do their songs. And I honestly was kind of the same way with Hey Thanks when I first joined.
Yeah, because you don't want to come in right away and be like, hey, you do this or hey, you do that. You got to feel it out.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I wasn't really a huge fan of like pop punk at the time. And I think, the old early sounds of Hey Thanks was a lot more in that niche of like The Story So Far, Neck Deep, and all those like modern-esque kind of like pop punk bands. And that really wasn't like, I guess, my tea. So when I started playing with them, of course I had to learn like the old songs that the old singer had, because that's all the material the band had. And it was a little strange for me because it definitely felt like it didn't really fit or suit my voice, if that makes any sense.
That does make sense. So how did you get to a point where you felt it did suit your voice?
I think, and this is honestly really recent, but I think after we recorded our second EP with Gary Sione in like 2019 and we dropped it, I think from that recording experience, once we started writing production for this record coming out, I think it's the one I took like a very like huge leap of charge in as far as like writing, because after Gary, I literally bought Ableton. I bought a DAW. I bought like a bunch of production stuff, my own like piano so I could have a MIDI roll. And I just started like really getting into like production and writing, because it just was so interesting to me. And I spent most of the time writing out the demos for the record on my computer, because I just had so much material and so much time to do it. So I'd say like 2020 was like, the start of the pandemic was like really when it all like cranked up a gear.
So you used the pandemic time to really focus on the music writing.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely were writing some of these demos before the pandemic too. We went record this record actually in 2020 with Gary Sione, and we actually tracked it the month that the pandemic was like officially becoming like a lockdown type of situation. And we were actually really nervous because we were in New Jersey at the time. So we had scheduled to be out there for almost a month to record it, but we couldn't make trips to stores together. Like we had to like get one person to go in Gary's car and like get all the groceries for the studio. So that way, like, everybody could be as safe as we possibly could be.
It's like the sacrificial lamb.
Yes. and if they don't come back,
I'm thinking of The Mist. Do you ever see that movie?
ooh, I saw that when I was a kid, but I do not remember.
It's like you're sending one person out to face the monsters, and hopefully they come back.
That's straight up. But I was happy about it because, I was like, at least in like farmland, New Jersey, people are probably a little bit more considerate than I would say a lot of people are down here. Because, we have a lot of anti-vaxxers and people that are very timid of anything that goes against the grain of their reality, I guess.
Okay, so we recorded Start Living back in 2020, you're telling me.
Oh yeah, it was this record has honestly, like, and that's just the recording time since it's finally been released, but like I said, some of these demos were started in like early 2019. So this, honestly, these songs have been in the making for like almost 3 years.
Wow. So did you have plans with a label, or was the plan we're going to record these songs and send them out to labels and see who bites?
That the second one you said, that was the original plan, because this record was definitely a huge chunk of an expense for us personally, just because, we don't all live the most luxurious lives, and Louisiana minimum wage $7.25. But we tried to bite to a couple labels. Gary tried helping us send it out too. We actually, funny enough, like sent it to Pure Noise again to see what they would say, and they said that they really dug the record, but that for us being a newer band at the time, it was still like heavy pandemic. They were like, we don't know if we would want to take the risk of a band we have no idea, like what the traction would be.
Not a good time for new investments.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember Gary had told me they had told him to tell us that we should try just self-releasing and see if it like picks up anything. So eventually we that's kind of what we ended up doing. We self-released From Me to You, and we had put out the music video actually back in June of last year, and then it was August, and we were literally 2 weeks away from dropping this Small Space. And then Casey sent us an email because I think him and Gary had got in touch with each other. And yeah, and then we had to hurry up and fucking take down Small Space from our distributor and like backpedal everything we thought was going to happen.
That's a great surprise, though, right? And of course, folks, we're talking about Casey Iodine of Iodine Recordings. And if you don't know already, Hey Thanks' debut LP, Start Living, will be releasing May 27th. Yes?
Yes, I hope so. Unless there's tragic nuclear warfare and the planet gets destroyed.
Well, that better not happen, because I got to tell you, I was hooked immediately upon hearing both singles that are out there right now. I can't wait to hear the rest of it. And Travis, I would go as far as to say this is going to be one of my favorite records of 2022. What do you think of that?
Oh shit. My humble answer is that is very sweet. And for anybody to say that is honestly shocking. Now my comedic answer would be why?
I just listen, it doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes I hear a new band and I get that hit. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where you feel it, you feel feelings, you listen to it over and over again. I love what you guys are doing because I'm really into emo, post-hardcore type music, but you guys do a different spin on it where it's really polished and it has these great pop sensibilities. Talk about that a little bit. What's some of your influence? How do you shape it? How do you make it what it is?
Oh, it's crazy because I feel like this record is really a showcase of like all the elements of music we enjoy, like emo, pop, alternative, a little bit of that alternative 90s era. I feel like we wanted to make a record that we could pull a large sound pool from, and like we wanted to like be able to express that fluently through the entirety of the record without anything. So like when you listen to it, some songs really, like if you listen to like track 5 versus like track 12, they're like super different. But at the same time, if you're listening to the record like through its entirety, it almost feels like at the same time, like they make sense together, like being on the same record. And I feel like that's our biggest thing, is we wanted to have our debut record be something that shows we're more than just like, I guess your typical generic pop punk, like hook band or like straight pop act or a straight emo act. Like we just kind of wanted to, I guess, be as much of us as we could be. Because when I think about music or bands, I always like the idea of like when I hear a band, the first thing I think of is their name before I think of their genre. That's kind of how I feel about the Strokes, or like, you know, I feel like there's some bands out there that even though you can pinpoint, I guess, direction and narrative of where they're going, sometimes people just learn how to manipulate a sound bank to sound completely original, I guess, like themselves.
Right, because I was thinking about this earlier today because everyone was talking about Nirvana versus Foo Fighters because of the tragic passing of Taylor Hawkins. And I was thinking about it and I'm like, Nirvana, like these chords have been played before. Plenty of bands have done this, but somehow they took it and turned it into this massive thing. It's just so fascinating what different people can do with the same sounds.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, I feel like what every band should at least want to aspire to be is like, something that wasn't them intentionally trying to think about anything, they were just trying to be themselves in the moment and play purely what their heart wanted to play. And I feel like that's what this record hopefully tells people when they listen to it. And shout out to Gary, Brett, and Mike for all really, I guess, bringing the vision to life, because I feel like, a song can be a hit, but what's a song without the production behind it too?
Exactly. And I think you guys are onto something here, and I can't wait to hear more. I just really appreciate good songwriting. I'm older now. I don't have as much time to listen to everything, and my patience gets less and less each year. And you guys have great songs and great song structure. Like, you ever go see a band and you just don't even know what they're doing? Like, I don't know. I just always appreciate good song structure.
Oh yeah. And honestly, I mean, I don't mean to be over praising Gary, but Gary was honestly recording the first EP with him. That was honestly like a life-changing song structure thing for me, because I always had this bad habit when I was a teenager. Two bad habits, actually. One was that I realized any song I was ever on, as far as like it being recorded, very rarely would I ever try to hit people with a third chorus. Like, I always had this habit of like writing a 2-verse, 2-chorus, and then just this crazy bridge that like doesn't have anything else to do with the rest of the song. And it was cool in its own sense, but Gary really, like, the first EP we did, he really like tore down some of those songs and was like, yo, this whole section could make a lot more sense being an intro than being this like second verse after the second verse, like,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely a life-changing moment for songwriting, at least for me personally.
That's good. And that's good that you were open to it too, because that could be a tense situation where someone's like, hey, rearrange this thing all around. And, it could be difficult to hear.
Oh, absolutely. I think the only thing I still struggle with that I did get through a lot better this last time around is I had a really big problem with demoitis, where like you work on a demo for so long that your ears just like become adjusted to like some of the sounds and the things that you want. And it was another like slap on the wrist Gary had to give me. He was like, we're here to write it in the studio and like make it what it is here, and it was valid, because a year later, after I finally did a side-by-side comparison, I was like, holy shit, these demos sound horrible.
That's one thing I try to do as well. Like, when I'm writing with people, I can get stuck on, no, the song is done. That's it. And sometimes people will want to add things and it makes the song 10 times better. And sometimes people will want to add things and it's just unnecessary. So I guess you just have to work through it. That's the whole point of being in a band, right? Working together.
Oh yeah. And I feel like we do a really good job at letting each other have space whenever ideas come together that we all agree with. Like, sometimes there might be a song I write drums out for, or like I play guitar for or something. And sometimes, the band or whoever hears it, they might love it the way it is in pre-production and like want to stick with that play style. Other times there's like, parts that maybe two people in the band are like, yo, I think we could like take this section and make it something different. And honestly, 8 times out of 10, it ends up being better anyway. So
Here's a question. Have you ever written something and you wanted someone in the band to play something the way you wanted them to play it, but they just wouldn't do it?
I, not particularly that, but I did have a thing where like when we first hit the studio with Gary or with or even the last record, I used to have this thing, and this is because in my old band, the old drummer I had, he was one of those drummers where like he was so meticulous about like the fills and like the small things he did that like every time he would do takes, he'd just play it the same exact way. So in my head, I was like, okay, so that's how you have to do it. Cause I didn't know how to play drums until I was like 19 or 20. And so when I got into this band and we got in the studio, Trevor, like he's super good and he's super solid at, staying on the tempo and doing fills and shit. But there'd be like a session where, or like 3 different takes where like he would just like do a different fill like for each one. And I remember at first I would get kind of like, I'd get aggravated because I'd be like, well, if we only have one type of take for this one type of fill, I was like, how do we know we can make it perfect? And then I realized over time, I was like, we could just comp it, and like, having a variety of fills is actually like funner to like play through than being meticulous about every little thing,
Yeah. As long as it's still the same song and still the same tempo, I guess you can kind of experiment a little bit.
Yeah, that's definitely what being in a band helps me with. Because as a writer, sometimes I do struggle with getting a song mapped out on my own, and then like having a little bit of like that internal control issue with it. And I don't obviously like ever take it outwardly on anybody, but I can definitely feel, that feeling internally sometimes. And I know that if it's stressing me out internally, that I need to like try and make peace with it, because like that's still stressing me out.
Yeah, I get really stressed with songwriting. It can be difficult. It's easier for me to do with other people. And I can write a verse and a chorus like nobody's business, but I'm really bad at bridges, I need help from other people to fill in the rest.
Oh yeah, bridges are an interesting thing. There's like so many directions a bridge can go, and sometimes it's fun to have those like super extended bridges that just like go in all different directions. But yeah, that's like, I feel like the bridge is the key part of a song where like it's like the time to truly experiment with the most, if that makes any sense.
It absolutely does. Well, you've got the record coming out in May, barring any unforeseen nuclear wars. What else do we have coming up? Do we have tours? Do we have good shows? Things are opening back up now. Restrictions are lifted in some places. What's going on?
We are playing a local show in New Orleans next month. We're also playing the Community Furnace Fest event it's like the pre-release party for Stretch Armstrong's like release. And that's going to be in like South Carolina. I don't remember that location, and we have some other tours that are in the works right now being planned out, but nothing is like set in stone yet. So just, keep an eye out this summer and stuff will start popping up.
Yes, you have to. I'm excited to see the band. I know I'm going to get to at some point. I don't know when exactly, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen, Travis.
We want to make it up there. Like I said, there has to be one of these podcasts where, we co-host and we video stream it, and it's we're in the same room. We look like the Breakfast Club or something. Like we're all on a table together. And
oh, that would be great. You should see my setup. I've got a microphone with the metal arm on my desk. I've got 3 computers in front of me. I've got all the streamer lights on my back wall. It's crazy what's going on over here.
It's evil laboratory. I kind of imagine like one day we get one member from every Iodine band to get at this big circle table, and like we're kind of like the villains of like the world, and just like but we're doing like a podcast together. We can all wear like funny costumes or something.
I'm into that. Oh yeah, you know what? I like the aesthetics of Hey Thanks too. In the video From Me to You, I like the style, the appearance that's going on. It's very unique because I'm into that. I'm into clothing. I'm into style. I dig it. I like what you guys are doing.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we haven't always been the best with fits, but I feel like the biggest thing we wanted to like challenge ourselves with for this record is being a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more out there with like the clothes we choose to wear. Because we lately, even me, like I was the worst for it, but I used to dress in your typical like baseball tee with blue jeans and like not really paying any mind to like, I looked like what the true emo looks like.
Yep.
But in the last like 4 or 5 years, I've really been trying to up my aesthetic game. And honestly, for these new sets of clothes I have to thank my girlfriend Amy for really hooking me up at the thrift stores and finding like the coolest shit.
I love that. That's great. Yeah, I've got some great wardrobe. It's all black, but it's all expensive black stuff. So there you go.
Yes. Pirate King. The Pirate King. I got a little frilly kind of peacoat thing that looks like something a pirate would wear in my closet.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I have 2 winter jackets. I've got one black peacoat, and then I've got one long tweed looking thing that's good for more business oriented affairs. It's crazy what's going on over here.
But see, that makes sense because you like live in New York. You got to think about it. Like, why do I have a peacoat in my closet? I live in a place where it's boiling. You can cook eggs on the ground. It gets chaotic out here, and yet I'm going to wear a peacoat.
Have you ever actually had an opportunity to wear the peacoat? I mean, how cold does it get down there?
Well, at least speaking for like this year and what I can remember of last year, I feel like February and like late January is when it gets the coldest. But even then, it's like it might get to the 30s, and it's not freezing, but we do have like so much humidity in the air that the wind chills sometimes feel horrible. Like it just feels like you're getting like whiplashed with like these like sweaty gusts of wind. I don't know. I haven't really honestly like when I wear peacoats and stuff like that, sometimes I genuinely have to like wear it like it's a fit, like I'm going to like a club or something, it's not even for like practical uses.
Yeah, like up here it gets so cold. My jackets aren't warm at all, but they look so good. I just have to do it.
What the heck?
So Travis, you've got this record coming out in May. You're young. Exciting things are happening. You've got the whole world ahead of you. What are you looking forward to? What's the plan? Or do you not think about that really?
Well, in the words of Joe Dispenza and various other gurus of meditation, I think it's fun to think about an unforeseeable future, or sometimes not so fun to get stuck in the past that's already happened. But I feel like most of the time when you're like so focused like in the present moment, like sometimes the future just kind of will present itself in, those weird types of synchronicities and other things that you kind of knew were going to happen, but you still weren't sure of, So like, I feel like I live more in the present than I've ever done in my life, but I've always have a vision to be the biggest band in the world. So,
well, I think it's going to happen, Travis. After Start Living comes out, like I said on a previous episode of the show, if your band doesn't blow up, the world is just a cruel and unkind and unpleasant place, because I absolutely love what you guys are doing, and I wish you all the best.
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Absolutely. And Travis, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm looking forward to hearing more, and I'm looking forward to catching the band live at some point.
Yes, hopefully we'll make that Northeast run up there soon so we don't force you to fly down here.
Yeah, I just don't want to do it. I don't like going places,
Also, shout out to like 2 Travises living in New Orleans. Travis from Pieball. Travis.
Yes. You got the Travises are holding it down in New Orleans. I love it.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
There you have it, folks. Travis Opal. That was a great conversation. It was really nice to talk to Travis and hear more about Hey Thanks, because Casey, I discovered them fairly recently through you and the label, of course, and I love the band, like I told Travis, and he just had a lot of great stories. That whole thing with the fake Pure Noise record email, which just still completely blows my mind. And his journey about dealing with addiction and then, joining Hey Thanks and coming through everything successfully. I'm really happy for him. I'm really happy for the band, and I can't wait to hear more.
Yeah, that was actually the first time I heard the fake label story about Pure Noise. And I was cracking up, and I was thinking we should really mess with them and like send an email saying that this whole Iodine thing was fake from the beginning. And they're not actually on a label.
Tell them they have to switch singers again.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it was cool talking to him just because, they're so young and, they're just really at the beginning of their career. And I think a lot of the guests that come on the show are kind of, either mid-career or, in a lot of cases, sort of towards the end of their careers. And for the label, it was kind of, planned where we were kind of falling into this trap of, signing all these artists that have been around for 20 plus years. Because that was what we knew and that was what felt comfortable and familiar. And a lot of people had, I don't want to say criticized, but when we were kind of getting the label up and running, they're like, hey, you gotta think about some new blood and think about some younger acts, because that's going to be the future of the label. And shout out to a friend of mine, Darren Thompson. He's in a band called Down Talker. He had connected me with the producer, Gary Cioni, who Travis talked about in the interview. And Gary had just said, hey, I just finished in the studio with this band. They don't have a label yet. They're going to be huge. I think he even said it was the best record he's ever recorded. And as soon as I heard it, it was like this instant, I think we sent them a contract within a week of hearing the record.
Wow.
And, we met with them a few times over video chats and talked about, their touring prospects and things like that. But just everyone in that band was so nice and so energetic and so motivated. I just had that gut feeling that this was a good move all around. And I think anyone that's heard the record has just been impressed with just how talented they are and how polished the record sounds. And I think they appeal to, a lot of different audiences, not only kind of that emo world, but, they have a lot of pop sensibilities and, there's something for everybody there.
Absolutely. It hooked me. I still have this small space in my head from the first time I heard it.
And I got to say one thing. He didn't say it in this interview, but Travis did an interview with another podcast a few weeks ago, and I was listening to it, and they asked him on the show, hey, congrats on signing to Iodine. They've done some great stuff. Were you a fan of the label back when they were kind of at their height? And he says, well, no, because I wasn't born yet. I called him right after and I was like, I can't believe you did that. You made me feel so old. That's so fucked up.
I'm actually surprised he wasn't born in 2003?
I think I don't know what year he was born, but I think it was the early 2000s. So I'm sure he was thinking like 98, 99 when the label first started. I'm guessing he was born in 2000 or 2001, something in that range.
He wasn't old enough to comprehend the label yet. Let's say that. That'll make us feel better. Okay. Yeah, so thanks so much, Travis. Can't wait to hear the record. Casey, I haven't heard the whole record yet. I don't get an advanced copy. Is there a secret SoundCloud link or something I can hear?
I'll start putting you on the distribution list for that stuff. But it's crazy because most of the tracks we've dropped so far are kind of in that, very emo indie pop realm. And this record is actually really diverse and they bring in some electronic music into it. There's definitely some highs and lows. And I just think people are going to be really impressed with, just the album as a whole, not just the individual tracks.
So how are we doing, Casey? Let's check in.
Yeah, I want to know how you're doing, Keith. Let's talk about you for a minute.
Wait, you want to start by asking me how I'm doing?
I want to know how you're doing.
Wow, I can't believe... Well, okay. I'm doing great. Like you mentioned, we've got 2 big months coming up for the show if everything stays in place, so that makes me very excited. I finally got back on Twitch and am streaming again after months of absence. I don't know, I actually got motivated again after seeing Emily from Survival Guide. I dropped into her stream And I was like, hey, this looks fun. Everybody's hanging out. Let me do this again. So I've been doing that regularly. I don't know if it'll hold because, it's a lot to do the show and be on Twitch 4 nights a week, but we'll see. I've got the new TikTok up. I've got the new YouTube Clips channel up, and I had been putting that off for a long time because I'm lazy, but they're up, they're done, they're ready. And personally, I'm good. I'm just working and living and hanging out and getting outside, and I really don't have any complaints. Everything is great.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it.
How about you?
Just busy. Things with the label have really taken off, and it's exciting, but it's hard. I think people think of labels as being this cool, fun thing where you're hanging out with bands all the time, and that it couldn't be further from the truth. There's a lot of groundwork that we have to do to keep things going and getting releases planned for the future. But I did something for myself last night. I actually drove up to Maryland, and I saw Ritual Earth play last night. And that was actually the first time I've seen them, which is crazy since they're on the label, and hung out with those guys and caught up a bit. But other than that, just working on a few more releases for 2022, and we're already building out the calendar for 2023. And I think we've already got 10 releases scheduled for 2023. And we haven't even finished 2022 yet. I know that's why I was saying, like, I feel like the label is bigger now than it was 20 years ago. This year we will surpass all, in just pure numbers, the number of releases we released in total from, the label's original time. So, it's cool. And, I think we're kind of ending this year on a high note with Furnace Fest and the fest down in Florida. We've got 8 bands playing the Florida Fest, and we've got 3 bands playing Furnace Fest, and one of which isn't announced yet. So stay tuned for that.
I wonder how you find the time to even run the label. You have a career, and the label is just with the amount of bands and conversations you must have and everything you do. How do you do it? Do you sleep at all?
Sometimes no. There are times like you'll send me graphic requests for the show, and I'm up at 2 a.m, trying to crank them out. Cause, honestly, my least favorite thing about keeping the label going is the social media presence. That is something that I hope one of these days I can outsource. And it's hard because it's probably the most important part of connecting with fans and making sure everyone's aware of what is happening. But it takes so much time out of the day. And, not only, interacting with posts, but actually spending the time to create the graphics and get them uploaded. So it's just challenging because I feel like I'm spending so much time on my phone or on the computer. And, I think that as time goes on, I need to figure out ways to either automate some of that stuff or just find help in, running those aspects of the label.
How was the Ritual Earth show? Where was it?
It was good. It was in a small town in Maryland. I think it was run by the folks that do the Maryland Doom Fest. It was a small show, but they killed it. They need to be playing on bigger stages, like in stadiums, not, small bar venues. But they'll get there. They're getting a lot of hype right now in that doom metal world. So it's just a matter of time.
Well, folks, that's all we've got. That's it. We hope everyone out there is doing great. We're doing great. There's new episodes every week, Mondays, 9 a.m. Be here. There's exciting things happening in the world of the new scene and Iodine recordings. So keep those Apple Podcast and Spotify reviews coming. I have to get over 100. I have to, or Casey is going to remove me from the show. He actually told me that before we started recording, right, Casey?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's direct from his mouth himself, and you don't want that to happen. So, folks, thank you for your continued support. We're back next week with a new episode and a new guest. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and until next time.